Greetings everyone, Cameron McCassin here, coming at you with some of my top picks for movies I enjoyed whenever I was a little boy. Now someone asked me to do a top 5 picks of movies I watched when I was a kid, and I couldn't narrow it down to 5. So I went ahead and picked out 10 movies of things that I really enjoyed. I could have done a lot more than that. Of course, I grew up in, the 1980s with the same time I think a lot of people who watch my videos did as well. A whole lot of things that I enjoyed that I would have picked. It took me a lot just to pick these out, but I wanted to kind of give some just different things and give you some stories on specifically why I picked these. First pick was Jim Henson's Labyrinth, which is a movie, of course, with David Bowie about someone who wishes their little brother away and they have to go through this maze to find the Goblin King. I remember the first time I saw this movie, my parents owned an electronics store that was in the same plaza as a video store. So every day they would pick me up from school. They had a back room. I would go and sit in there and watch television. I'd go rent a movie and go through these. I remember picking out Labyrinth just because it said Jim Henson. I recognized it from the Muppets. The Muppets didn't make this list because this is kind of what I went with, to bypass that. But I love all the Muppet movies. Just really, really great story. A lot of great music in this. Again, it's the first time I ever saw David Bowie, but of course I would go on to be a huge fan of that. Whenever Fly the Conchords did the David Bowie episode a couple years ago, and they did the dream sequence where he was dressed up as David Bowie from Labyrinth, I nearly lost it. I thought it was the funniest thing. But anyways, that's pick number 1. Second movie I picked was Harry and the Hendersons, which just came out on DVD recently. Haven't even had time to sit down and watch this again. This movie is real endearing to me because when I was a kid, we went to Universal Studios, and I was like on the Back to the Future show, did all that fun stuff. My kid sister got picked for Harry and the Hendersons, and I have a really great photo of me somewhere with the guy in the Harry and the Hendersons costume. Because I think at the time they were doing it, they ended up making this into a TV show. This is a real quirky little movie. It's a Bigfoot movie, probably the sweetest Bigfoot that you will ever see. Just real funny, a lot of good laughs, but just a killer movie. If you've never seen this, pick it up. Third movie I picked is actually just a big giant commercial for Nintendo, and that's The Wizard with Fred Savage. Fred Savage, of course, I grew up with on The Wonder Years, which is a TV show that I watched weekly whenever it came on. When I was in like the 2nd or 3rd grade, everybody in my class had to pick someone to write a letter to. I wrote it to Fred Savage, and he wrote me back a real kind letter and also sent me a postcard that said something real cheesy on the back, like, "I hope all yours are Wonder Years, Fred Savage." And I still have that somewhere. I have no clue where it is. But this is, like I say, it's a big long commercial for Nintendo. A lot of cool, video game stuff at the time that you're like, wow, I can't believe that this is coming out. Or they have all these, like the Power Glove was in this, and all that different stuff, which I think is why Nintendo is so endearing years and years later, is because not because of this movie specifically, but they had all the promotion to go with it, whether it be commercials, cartoons, ads in the back of comic books. It was just like you were seeing it constantly, and this movie is just another part of that. Fun fact about this movie, Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man, is the first thing he's ever in. He's one of the little Goonie kids at the end. Basically, he's got a mullet, and he's sitting there. You can probably look up the clip on YouTube, but if you watch this, look for him towards the end of the movie. My next pick is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is a movie that I've seen like 10,000 times. When I was a kid, I used to watch this all the time. Wore a hole in the VHS. I watched it so much. I was a huge fan. I grew up reading the Archie comics when I got a little bit older. I found the old comic books, which was kind of awesome because I had this backstory where they were all clean cut, but then like you got into, the original comic books were a little bit more gruesome than that, and just a whole lot, probably one of the first independent comic books that I ever read. But this is just it's a really good movie. There's a lot of good stuff in there. Probably the last time you will ever see, the animatronic heads and things like that. I enjoyed this one. I enjoyed the sequels. I even like the animated one they did a couple years ago. I do wish someone would do, a really good job rebooting Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, just because I think it'd be cool to see little kids running around eating pizza and, playing Ninja Turtles again. The next thing I picked is Gremlins, which is pretty much the movie that starts off. Usually I'll watch this the day after Halloween. It's like the first Christmas movie that I'll really jump into. Just killer movie. I've seen this numerous times. Joe Dante movie, who's made a whole lot of this stuff that I really enjoyed. I'm a real big fan of his, but Gremlins always has stuck with me. When I was a kid, I had a Gizmo doll that I used to carry around, and my older sister would torture me. She took it and dipped its head into a hot tub one time and scalded its eye with the chlorine, basically. So I had this this doll that had like this one eye that looked like fire. So whenever I was like in high school, early days, we started a band that never really played anything called One-Eyed Gizmo that was named after that doll. So fun little fact there. Another movie I used to watch all the time is The Neverending Story. This is a DVD that, again, is never open, which I think is weird. I think I probably have 2 copies of this floating around somewhere. But this is another one that I specifically remember the first time that I saw it, bringing it home from the video store. And I thought that the rock monster looked really cool on the back of the box, and thinking, like, this has got to be, I don't know what I was comparing it to at the time, but I would remember thinking, like, this is going to be really cool. And it was. It's a great story, with just the kid reading the book, and you see Atreyu and the Luck Dragon and all the different things. I watched this numerous times, growing up, and even now it's like every couple of years I'll stick it in. The sequels they made to this I always thought were terrible. I think I had the second one floating around somewhere, but I never really liked them. The first one's the only one I really do enjoy. I know some people feel differently about that, but that's just my take on it. The next pick is something that called The Ghost of Mr. Chicken. Now this movie was made well before the 80s. This is a movie that I want to say my mother probably used to watch when she was a child and passed it on to us because we used to watch it on videotape all the time. Don Knotts, in a haunted house movie. I think this is a great, great movie. Why they haven't put this on the remake train, I can't figure out, because it is ripe for the taking. But this is pretty much like right after he got off Andy Griffith. He was becoming a big star, and they were looking for just kind of vehicles to stick him in. There's a whole lot of people that were on the Andy Griffith Show who pop up in this movie that if you're a fan of that show, you'll notice them in there. A lot of great one-liners in this. Don Knotts, just a incredible comedian. If you say never saw Andy Griffith or any of the stuff he did, Incredible Mr. Limpet, which is another great kids movie. This is one worth checking out. It's real clean cut fun. You could, it's a horror movie, but it's it's a Saturday afternoon kind of movie. Just a really good thing to look at. Next movie I picked was Willow. I remember specifically I wanted to go see Willow, and I had I have a couple of different sisters, and I got outvoted. And that week we went and saw Beetlejuice, which is a movie that I enjoy. But when I was, at the time this came out, and I don't remember exactly what year it was, this is all I wanted to see. It was like, the way they were advertising it, it was like from the creators of Star Wars, and like, you had Mad Mardigan, and you saw this guy riding around with a skull on his face. And I thought, this is going to be the greatest movie of all time. And I really didn't enjoy it. I remember the action figures were really crappy to me at the time, because they were just like these little rubber guys who didn't move that were on a stand. And, whenever you had G.I. Joes and things like that, it was just kind of like lame. You wanted, really cool toys. But Willow's a great movie. I still watch this every couple of years. Whole lot of good stuff going on there. Some of the effects have not aged terribly well, but still a fun movie, just the same. Next movie I picked was E.T., which is, I think, a movie we all grew up on. This is another great Universal Studios tour remembrance for me. If you ever did the ride there where E.T. said your name at the end of the thing. That blew my mind when I was a little kid. I really love this movie. I took my oldest niece to see this years and years ago when they re-released it with the walkie-talkies and all that fun stuff, and scared her to death. My wife hates this movie. It was the same thing for her when she was a kid. It just scared her to death. For whatever reason, it didn't scare me. I loved it. Loved E.T. Just kind of grew up with it and watched it all the time. So this one is really killer. My last pick at number 10, and again I'm just flying through these, is the Goonies, which of course is celebrating an anniversary this year. I am a huge Goonies fan. I love this movie. There's a Blu-ray coming out that I think is going to have some more special features than even what this had, and I'm definitely going to rebuy that movie. Goonies is one of those things that I think if the world ended, I could sit down and remake this movie word for word, shot for shot, and not remember or not forget anything about it. Just a killer little movie. It's weird to see all these people go on to different things. They were talking about doing a sequel a couple years ago, and I hope they never do that, because I don't think you can recapture that. But Richard Donner, of course, did Superman, things like that, and Spielberg producing, Chris Columbus, who did Harry Potter, Home Alone, all that stuff, wrote the thing. Just a killer movie. I absolutely love it. So anyways, let me know. Tell me the stuff you watched when you were a kid. Tell me what I forgot. Tell me if you had any stories about this. Leave me a video response. Tell me your stories about seeing these movies for the first time and what you remember from being a kid, the movies you loved. I'm going to cut this because we're getting real close to the limit here, but thanks for being so supportive. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.